Hello, everyone. Perfect. I'm Ryan Goetz, Director of Customer Success for Vic.ai. So we are a fintech startup that leverages big data and machine learning to generate AI in order to automate accounting processes. So the first problem we're tackling is the most inefficient and error-prone of everything in the accounting process, which is accounts payable.
Anu, do you wed? Yeah. Can you guys hear me? Anu Krishnan. I lead the information data and analytics practice at Shell. So we have about 1,600 people in my organization that span the gamut of all things data and analytics, including platform engineers, data engineers, visualization, data science, AI, machine learning, as well as information management specialists. And we tackle all the various use cases across all of our different business verticals and horizontals.
Thank you, Anu. Jaime, do you want to go?
Hi, everyone. Jaime Gracia, Director of Strategic Enterprise Programs at the U.S. Department of State. That is a very large portfolio, which includes category management and strategic sourcing for the department. Right now, our portfolio is a little less than $12 billion in transactional volume, so I lead efforts to manage that spend, and we're looking to really customize a lot of that procurement process through automation and using technology, which is another part of my portfolio that I lead, amongst the other things. I always joke that what don't I do is part of my portfolio, because that's quite a few other things in addition to industry liaison and the acquisition innovation advocate for the Department of State as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Jaime. Adam, do you want to go next?
Yeah, Adam Kucera. I am Sales Director for Q for Sales at Uniphore. So we're a SaaS conversational AI company based on emotional intelligence. We help and provide a solution for business-to-business salespeople to better engage and read the room in their virtual interactions with potential clients. We're actually pretty new. Our product is pretty new, so this is our first use case, but we're going to continue to build on that for other verticals as well, recruiting, HR, things like that.
Thank you, Adam.
Absolutely.
All right, my name is Hemali, Shah. I'm going to take a little different take on introduction. So I'm a mother to my two beautiful sons. I'm a wife to my best friend. I'm a daughter, I'm a sister. I am a data science leader, I'm a strategist. I work as a data science manager at Regions Bank. It's headquartered at Birmingham, Alabama. It's a Fortune 500 company, and I'm very proud of to be Regions associate. I care for AI because I feel AI makes an impact, not just personally, but professionally as well. It saves cost, it increases revenue, and most importantly, AI saves lives too. So this topic is really important for me. So before, okay, that concludes the introduction. I'll jump into the discussion before taking much time. So my first question is, across every major industry and functional areas, AI has become more into kind of, it's an important thing to operationalize an AI. But there are a lot of hurdles that comes with operationalizing AI. So in your opinion, we all come from different industries. In your opinion, what is the hardest thing about scaling AI? And I can go first. These are some of the common topics that you guys are probably hearing since morning. The hardest thing is, of course, data quality. Data availability, having those pipelines built that can be available in the lower environment, which we call, besides the production environment, of course. Data is siloed in the industry, and that's a problem across the industry. But more importantly, taking your model to operationalize, as this question is AI operationalization. Having that infrastructure, the stable infrastructure where you can the model is really not just a model, but it is packaged as a product, and you have a direct impact on revenue and cost saving, or really the ROI of the company. Do you want to add something?
Yeah, I can jump into that. So I again, in B2B sales is our target right now. And so, when it comes to getting into the business, it's talking to the executives, it's talking to the people that are really invested in it. But when you talk about operationalization, hard work, that's really the users every day. So that's the salespeople. And they see this as, is this just another thing that I need to do? Is this going to be, it's going to be recording my calls? Is this going to be intrusive? Whatever the case might be. So you really have to get their buy-in to start to use the product, because they're who are going to get the most benefit out of it on the front lines, and then that's going to trickle down for the rest of the company, and they're going to continue to see that ROI.
That's a very good point, Adam. Anybody else want to add?
Yeah, so for us in Shell, we've been on this journey for, 10, 12 years now. And I think, I tell people POCs, are fantastic. We all do POCs. We can always find a stakeholder who's able to, find you the budget to do a POC. But the moment the POC is successful, operationalizing it and scaling it is a whole different ballgame, right? And it usually requires multiple senior stakeholders to support it, some kind of governance body that will sign off on it, and then, of course, not to mention the technology infrastructure and the talent that's required to now take this and scale it and operationalize it. So that's where, for us, when the rubber hits the road, we started to find challenges, which is the right people with both the technology background as well as the domain expertise, and having the right platforms and the right data infrastructure to be able to scale something, across, let's say, many assets in our case, where we hit some roadblocks. But it's not to say that we've not been successful. I mean, I'll put a shameless plug for us in Shell. We recently won a AI award for predictive maintenance, because we were one of the few companies that have actually done it at scale and proven that it's possible. But we've got lots of scars to get us there.
Congratulations, Anu, for that. You made a great point about government policies and all. That is definitely a hurdle when it comes to AI. Anybody else want to add?
Yeah, so just adding to the government policy, being the government guy up here.
I didn't realize. Oops.
We've got this wonderful thing called bureaucracy. So it is very hard to really scale AI in government. Not that it's not possible. I mean, probably the biggest challenges that I think AI has in government is just getting in the door, and just talking to a couple of vendors here who are interested in public work. Just getting in the door is not only the hardest part, but also the procurement process. Because we have this thing called the Federal Acquisition Regulation, which if you ever have insomnia, please read it. Guaranteed to work, no medication required. It's about, that thick. But laws and regulations and, of course, congressional demands, and it just gets quite lost with the type of infrastructure that you need to really be successful. So it's a pretty unique challenge. I always joke that sometimes it's a self-inflicted wound at times, but nonetheless, we have to work through it and create the policies that we need internally to be successful. And that's what I do at the Department of State with my colleagues, is effectively figure out all the sausage making, right, all the connections that we have to do, and really find ways to streamline that process through relationship building and understanding what we really need to do to be successful, and then get after it and do it. So it's not an easy task, but we're getting it done, and there's certainly lots of use cases across federal government that we'll talk about where it's really being successful and really providing excellent care to our citizens, to our taxpayers, and also our veterans.
Thank you, Jaime, for giving the government perspective. Anu, I would like to start the next question with you. So it's kind of talk of the town, cloud versus on-premise. How does that factor into effect?
Sorry, I think you have the wrong question for me, Hemali. That was not...
Okay, okay, then I'll just open this question to the panel. Sorry, Anu, I didn't realize that. All right, so cloud versus on-premise computing, how does that factor into effective AI? Does anybody want to jump in?
Well, maybe not effective AI, but certainly from an implementation standpoint, right? Being able to skip through some of the bureaucracy of corporate America, right? And being able to say, we can implement this without a lot of resources and having to get this prioritized and have a team assigned to it and so on. Being able from a SaaS perspective to go in and implement on an hour-long call, we're up and running, everybody gets their invite email, and they're actually using the product within 5 minutes. So that's something that I think that from a cloud perspective, from a SaaS perspective, that we see that implementation, that speed to value is a huge benefit in getting adoption and getting that acceptance.
I agree with you, Adam. The speed, the setup. Setup is much easier when you are on cloud because it is cost effective as well. You pay for what you use. Because we have gone through the setup of infrastructure and finding those right talent, right tool, it takes a lot of time and cost. So you made a great point. Thank you, Adam. Anybody else want to jump in?
Well, so from the government's view, I mean, we really kind of already got through that hurdle of kind of on-prem versus cloud, and really that started with the cloud-first policy in 2011. That's now a cloud-smart strategy, really focused on 3 pillars of procurement, workforce, and security. And the security part is really the continuous challenge, especially through supply chain risk management and also data when we talk about Zone Zero and Net Zero architecture for processes that we have to do so that you can actually be successful in government and make sure that we have the right security parameters and threat analyses already discovered. But for cloud, as we were saying, the agility and the flexibility and the speed is really what we're doing. And to get over some of these hurdles, we're really trying to find ways to lower the footprint of using these tools. So instead of huge billion-dollar waterfall projects that are big shiny objects, we're really looking to start small and play small and really use Agile and DevOps and DevSecOps more importantly so that we can now try to iterate and we can try to deliver in the hands of the warfighter or the taxpayer or whomever it might be quicker and faster using these techniques. And a couple of other things that we're doing in federal government, such as other transaction authority and commercial solutions opening, is really buying like commercial. And that's another really important part of not only cloud, but AI for government, is how we procure these services and train our workforce to use them and help them be agile and flexible so that we can use these tools as force multipliers and not something that is seen as, oh, this is going to take my job. No, actually, it's going to help improve your job, and here's how. And it's also a messaging and a communication strategy. So it's a full life cycle of how to use cloud, but more importantly, what are the benefits and really what's the value and the return on investment. That's how we're kind of changing that paradigm shift and using cloud more effectively in our wonderful world of federal government.
Thank you, Jaime.
And I'll add one thing, Hemali, and that is, for us, I think adoption of cloud for analytics has actually accelerated the migration from on-prem, right? So when we found out that doing it, on cloud-based solutions with SaaS is the way to go, some of the laggards that were reluctant to make the transition to cloud now find that they've got a need to get to cloud if they want to have data analytics, data science use cases on that. So if anything, it's helped us drive that adoption even faster.
That's a great point. Thank you, Anu, and thank you, Jaime. Okay, so next is, it's quite in line about adoption and faster. How much executive buy-in is necessary for scaling AI, and how do you get it? Adam, you're looking at me. I'll start with you.
Yeah, I mean, certainly, listen, I talk with executives every day about trying to use our solution to solve their problems, right? Yes, they have to be bought in. They're generally the ones that are writing the check or signing off on it. And so it is absolutely critical that they see the value, not only in the short term, but hopefully that they see the value in the long term as well. And something that, I think that, that we see being very successful is not finding the one thing that they're trying to solve for, but what are the multiple things that we can help them solve for, whether that is less attrition, better onboarding for new salespeople, getting bigger deals done, getting those deals done faster. So if you can get multiple elements that are important to them, then you're going to not only win that business, but create a great relationship over the long term.
Showing ROI.
Absolutely.
Anybody else want to add?
Yeah, so I'll take a crack at it. So for us, executive buy-in, so at the senior most levels, we get the buy-in, right? So at the EVP level, the director level, they're all bought in. It's somewhere at that middle level that we kind of lose people, right? And I think when it comes to individual P&L businesses, having to justify to an individual P&L leader why this is good for them, even though somebody else has done it and proven it, the one approach that's helped us in the past is to find that one those one or two evangelist business leaders who think themselves as digital natives, who think themselves as being sort of digitally savvy, and using them to tell the story to their peers, right? So it's not an IT push. It's not digital coming to you and saying, thou shalt. It's your friendly business peer leader who's coming and telling you what a great success story they've had and why you should be doing the same thing. And that's actually worked really well for us.
Totally agree with both Adam and Anu. That is what has actually impacted in regions as well. So we have shown value over the years about AI solutions, like providing AI solutions. It was a mind shift change. It was not easy. But through our products and through our solutions, which have proven over the years, now it's not that difficult to get an executive buy-in. In fact, we have been, what should I say? Our department has been reached out by different departments kind of to implement those solutions to improve their ROI. So yes, definitely agree with you. Thank you both. My next question is about really recruiting the talent. So let's talk about human resource recruiting, the training. How you approach this area to create that effective AI outcome? And I can start with myself. So while recruiting, besides technical skills, what I look into a candidate is how passionate that candidate is, how creative, and how like the out-of-the-box thinking type of person that candidate is. Of course, for regions, culture is really important. So we do look for cultural fit at regions. Besides that, the communication skill is very important. Data science is about telling story through data. So how impactful the communication skill is for that person is very important for me. And for the training, we do provide, actually we have a platform, training platform at regions. So a candidate can kind of create its own path like how we have on other platforms, Coursera or other online training, apps. So we have the similar sort of platform at regions. But besides that, in the data science department, we conduct data science exchanges where data scientists come, they showcase their work, they discuss. It's an open discussion forum for 1 hour every month. We also have knowledge cafes. It's more broader, not just limited to data science, but it's a company-wide from regions. Everybody participates in that. So we have those knowledge cafes, and I personally do brainstorming sessions in my team. Because I don't get to actually code, but I'm a data scientist at my heart. So that kind of gives me a perspective of what my team is building and kind of have that, inner view of what they are building and give my guidance to them. So those brainstorming sessions not just helps me, but my team as well. So that's how I do it. Anybody else?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we definitely do a few things in regards to hiring. So again, when any of our customers onboard, they are shifting their AP process, accounts payable process, from RPA or rules-based or something even older to something which is now a complete shift. They're going from data entry to AI prediction confirmation. So the first thing we do is we provide them with updated job descriptions, recommendations on exactly how they should be positioning all of the new hires that they're looking for. And again, by showing that they are going to be partnering with an AI, they're going to be nurturing it and cultivating it, this is going to find people who are interested in doing the newer way of things that's inevitable. And it's going to be folks who are not entrenched in an older way of doing things, and that they are willing to, again, embrace these new technologies and deliver a ton of value both for themselves and learning how to be the first people that are handling and mentoring AIs as a profession, as well as providing that value and ROI for the company.
That's a great insight, Ryan. Thank you. Anyone else about recruiting?
Yeah, so I'll piggyback on what you said, Hemali. So for us, once you're in, once we've recruited you and you've come in, I think the things that make it an attractive technical career in Shell is we actually have a technical ladder, right? So as opposed to sort of having to be forced down the path of having to get to you get to a certain level, and beyond that, you can only be a manager for further advancement. We actually have a technical ladder that takes you up to fairly senior levels. And that's in our data engineering practice, in our data science practice across the board. We've also created these guilds. So we've got guilds for every single technical area, and within the guilds, we promote that people focus, about 80% of their time on projects and about the remaining 10 to 15% time on driving standards, driving adoption, putting in their code in the code repository for others to use, doing peer reviews, and so forth, to really build that culture, that engineering culture within the organization that, you are in a technical field, and the only way you're going to develop is if you continue to, learn not just, with courses from Microsoft or AWS, but you actually do a whole lot of on-the-job learning as well.
Totally agree, Anu. Like, peer review is very important. I have to completely agree with you on that.
And I would just add that, something that I think, everybody here at the conference, right? The hiring, part of hiring is marketing, right? You're marketing the company, and I mean, AI is cool. At the root of it, what we're doing, the things that we are all involved in, is pretty cool and pretty interesting. And I think that we shouldn't overlook those types of things. That just talking about how we're taking things that have been done one way for a long time, and we're automating it. We're making it, kind of bringing it into the future, really. And that's something that I think can do a lot for all of us to hire as well.
I agree. AI is a field that kind of everybody and anybody wants to be right now. So I agree with you, Adam. Thank you for adding that. Anyone else before I move on to? All right, let's move on to the next question. So partnership between companies, for example, a new company like a fintech specializing in AI for the automation of some task, and large companies. How should a partnership like this ideally work? And Ryan, I know you come from that field, so I would like to start with you.
You're describing our business model. But the first thing that is very important is the word you mentioned, which is partnership. So often, buyers of a software believe that it's going to do exactly what they want instead of what you're telling them it will do. So there's give and take, and they need to understand that it's definitely a partnership. But in all honesty, the number one most important thing that we've already touched upon is having a visionary leader, or ideally multiple visionary leaders. Anytime you're implementing something that is not just new, but something that will perhaps drastically shift how your company operates and and touches a lot of people up and down the organization and their day-to-day tasks, there's going to be resistance. There will be a ton of change management that they need to push through. But it's ultimately critical if they want to obtain the value and the ROI that they're looking to obtain by adopting a platform like ours. In addition, mapping workflows. So this is perhaps the least sexy thing, but we spend an inordinate amount of time in our sales engineering and implementation process understanding their tech stack, their integrations, top to bottom, all the different steps in their workflow, because again, as we are mapping to a new paradigm, we want to pinpoint areas of opportunity to excise completely, areas where we can drastically improve outcomes just by shifting things and, again, seeing what they were willing to do. And it takes partnership to understand what is a extremely sacred thing that cannot be touched and what's more malleable in order to, again, deliver that result. And lastly, and this is perhaps being in the post-sales team, capture honest feedback consistently. So again, whether it's at defined intervals, whether it's at specific milestones, up and down the entire organizations, we go from executives to managers to the end users to capture all of the feedback. Whether it's the positive interactions, we love to hear that, or whether it's the pain points, we are constantly collecting and collating this data from an entire customer base, because most importantly, we want to generalize all of those various pain points and issues so that we can then pinpoint the areas of greatest impact that we can solve on our product roadmap.
Thank you, Ryan. I think you made two good points that kind of struck with me. Buyer's demand, it's very hard to cope with, I guess, because I come from the other side of the table. We keep demanding, and I can understand how frustrating it might be for companies like you who provides the solution. We want to customize each and everything, but then it's not a standard solution if we customize. So I have a different perspective today. And the other point, and I kind of, I'm blanking out the other good point that you made. That was the last point, and I'm
Capturing feedback.
That's right. That's
Yes.
right. Capturing feedback. We do believe in giving feedback in order to. So we work on certain vendors or certain solutions, and I can agree. Like providing feedback can be how important it can be with somebody who's providing a solution. So thank you. Anybody else on that?
So I'll take a slightly different tact on partnerships, and perhaps from your point of view, Hemali. So as a large corporation, we work with a number of tech companies, predominantly Microsoft, AWS, and various, Databricks and a whole bunch of others. But very early on in our journey towards predictive analytics, we recognized that building a platform was not our core business. That's not where we come from. So why bother building something from scratch? Let's go to the market and look at the people that do it and do it well. And that started a partnership with C3.ai. So a few years ago, we decided to invest and be a partner with them and built a predictive analytics platform. And, going back to your point, right, we've provided requirements to them in terms of what we want in the next generation platforms. And so it's become a really good partnership between the two. And we've expanded that to include a third company, Baker Hughes. And we have an open AI initiative where we're inviting people to say, okay, how do we develop AI in the field of energy together? How do we build, open source solutions that others can benefit from as well? So it's a two-way street. You have technology partners, but then you also give back in terms of, what you can offer up to the industry.
True. So some pain is fruitful in the end.
I mean, we want to hear the good, the bad, and the ugly. We do not want people to tell us, oh, you're perfect, because that is categorically a
True.
lie. We want to understand what are the pain points, because that's where we're failing you.
Yep.
And again, if we're failing everyone there, then we'll fix it. If we're failing just you, well, I don't know. Depends.
Thank you both. Anyone else want to add?
I mean, I guess I would say that, from a partnership standpoint, it's very much, our product is going to disrupt the way that they're doing things, right? In a good way, hopefully,
Yeah.
right? But it is disruptive. And so helping to guide them down a path that's been proven by other partners to ensure that what they're, the processes, the change management, right? All of those things are as smooth as possible so that we get the adoption that we've talked about, we get the feedback, we get all of those benefits, and it comes as quickly as possible.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you for adding that. So next question is about procurement. And Jaime, I remember you mentioned about that multiple times on your comments before. So you're thinking a lot about procurement and AI in your role. How are you changing the procurement process to enable AI adoption across the organization? Or how can AI be used for procurement?
So I would love to just blanket change the procurement process, but that's not going to happen. So we got to deal with what we have. But there's a lot of ways, as I mentioned, to streamline these things, and that's what we're looking at. So one thing that government has an abundance of is data, but we're not really leveraging it and using it intelligently, and that's really the programs that we want to do across multiple things that I'm just fortunate enough and honored enough to have in my portfolio, such as strategic sourcing and category management, and trying to use that data more effectively. Because one thing that we're looking at is, okay, so we've got the spend analytics, but now what do we do with this information, right? And so we talk about strategic supplier relationships, and that's certainly one thing in my portfolio that I want to do more of, is to do these types of things with who we're buying it, what we're buying, where we're buying it, because Department of State, we're all over the globe. So we've got not just domestic, but a lot of partnerships overseas. So how do we build strategic partnerships with those folks? Where are we buying this information? How do we get ahead of this information, right? The predictive analysis of spending and that demand aggregation is really important for us. And some of the use cases that I'm building on AI platforms is going to help us do that. Because ultimately what we want to do in the procurement process is move the planning to the left of the life cycle, right? Because oftentimes in government, especially with the budgeting process the way that it is. The fourth quarter, where we're in right now, I like to call it feeding frenzy, because all the spending happens this quarter and in the last couple weeks of the quarter to boot. So what I'm trying to do is get us to go way back to the left and take a look at where we can use automations more proactively to engage with our customers earlier. So we've got lots of dashboards and we've got a lot of information now that gives us data about when contracts are ending and to get ahead and to speak to our customers more proactively about some of their strategies. What I'm trying to do is change that paradigm to really automate that process so that we can help our customers think more strategically about buying as a government unit. So some things that I'm putting in place are automations such as, okay, your contract ends in 18 months. All right, so what are you going to do now? But it's really looking at how to do effective market research and where to find suppliers and really find innovations, because we want to really put a lot of information in the hands of our customers so we can tell them, hey, look, here's the buyers that are buying what you're looking for. Here's strategic partnerships that you need to develop. Here's different types of contract vehicles and different things for category management that we want you to do. And here's some different types of strategic ways to use this data to be more effective. Because what we're doing as a government is really moving from low to high value work, especially when it comes to contracting, because it's a very difficult, complex process. So we want to free up our folks to do more of that complex work and really engage more with our customers and really take a lot of the onus on kind of pushing paper and really being more strategic about it. So that's just one of the kind of big use cases that we're doing with AI and procurement, but it's a really exciting time because it's all white space for us, really. So we're looking at ways to really drive value in the data and find ways to provide better mission support to the Department of State through our global initiatives and also through our domestic procurements as well.
So in your experience, Jaime, it's mainly about data procurement that you deal with?
Well, not data procurement, but just using data for procurement.
Okay.
Department of State buys everything. And what's interesting about Department of State, unlike most agencies, we have a huge construction footprint as well, which adds a lot more complexity. So one thing that we're also looking at is not only how do we buy smarter, but how do we buy more effective? How do we put now sustainability into these purchases, right? How do we buy better, lower our carbon footprint? So there's a lot of different ways that we're using the data to not only buy more strategically, to buy smarter, more effective, and also use a lot of these initiatives, not only that are coming down from the White House, but that we want to do as a country and as an agency to be more effective, not only to the planet, but the entire globe, and be more responsive in our diplomatic mission.
Thank you. Thank you, Jaime. Carbon footprint takes us to the next question.
Nice segue.
Where can AI make an impact on a sustainable future? Anu, I guess I'll start with you on that.
Yeah. So so sustainability is at the very, very core of Shell's strategy, and sort of energy transition and moving away from molecules to electrons is what we call part of our powering progress, which is sort of our tagline for our strategy. So for us, we are intending to be a net zero company, carbon company by 2050, and we are expecting to be 50% of our emissions from 2016. We expect to be at 50% of that by 2030. So we're setting some extremely aggressive targets. Our annual scorecard that measures what bonus I get is dependent on how much we are reducing our carbon year on year. So we're really serious about it. And so some of the ways in which AI has really materially started to help us, and I'll give you a couple of examples. So in real-time optimization, where we have real-time operations, and we've got lots of equipment that has lots of gauges and levers. We've done a lot of work with AI to really understand machine state and to optimize machine states to do two things. It actually drives up production, but it reduces carbon footprint quite significantly. So in our liquefied natural gas plants, in one of our plants, we were able to get something like 130 kilotons of reduction per year, which is about 28,000 vehicles off the road. That's just one plant. So there's, this is just one example. There are many, many other ways where we are doing inventory optimization to talk about, procurement processes. We are working on smart vehicles and, how do you optimize the energy mix to have renewable energy sources as well as, conventional energy sources. We're optimizing our wind farms to get the maximum production based on climate factors and so forth. So many, many ways to reduce carbon footprint, but also to remove the safety aspects for human beings. So for example, we have these big smokestacks in some of our chemical plants where you used to actually have a human that went up the smokestack to check if it needed maintenance. We don't do that anymore. We fly a drone, and the drone basically takes drone imagery and comes back and tells us, it needs maintenance. So many, many ways in which we are reducing carbon footprint. We're really pushing very hard towards our energy targets.
Wow. Anu, we wish you all the best, that you get
Thank you.
more and more bonus in coming years, I guess.
Hey, it's for a better planet,
It's a
right?
it's a great effort that you all are doing.
Thank
So
you.
wish you all the best.
Hi, guys.
Anybody else want to add?
Just a reminder, you've got 1 minute left. Thank you.
1 minute left.
Oh. We are almost done. Unless anybody else want to add to sustainable energy.
I mean, just in a similar vein, once we're able to layer on business intelligence and then look at vendors that are being used, one of the things that we're looking to implement is the capability for different corporations with different components of corporate responsibility, where, again, suggestions could be made for vendors that are going to be more reflective of lower carbon emissions, more local, more sustainable, veteran-owned, BIPOC-owned, but allow people to self-select how they want to shift and guide their spending. Looking at what they're already doing and who are substitutes in that same realm.
Thank you. Thank you, Ryan. And with that, we conclude this session. Thank you, everyone. And thank you, my panelists.